Hello to everyone tuning in. Just a quick start. It's a fun idea if you share where you're listening from. Thanks. Like and subscribe, and let's get comfortable and start the fun. I sit in my car outside Emily's office, my fingers trembling as I stare at the photo on my phone. It's her and Richard. The image is burned into my brain, her face flushed with passion, his hands all over her, my wife and her boss, together. I feel a surge of disbelief, quickly overtaken by a hot, searing anger that nearly blinds me. My pulse hammers in my ears. I want to smash the phone, but instead I keep staring at the screen, unable to look away. The photo came from an unknown number. No message, just the image. It feels like a punch to the gut, and I'm still reeling from it. Emily and I have been married for 15 years. We have two kids, a boy and a girl, and we've built a life together. At least that's what I thought. But now, this shatters everything. I'm a successful architect, early 40s, with a career I'm proud of. On the surface, my life is perfect. A beautiful wife, two great kids, a lovely home. But lately, things have been off between us. Emily's been distant, preoccupied with work. She's a marketing executive, always ambitious, always chasing the next big project. I convinced myself it was just the stress of her job, the late nights, the business trips, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. Our relationship isn't what it used to be. We've drifted apart. Our conversations reduced to mundane details about the kids' schedules or what's for dinner. I kept telling myself we could work through it, that we'd find our way back to each other. But now, staring at this photo, all those hopes feel naive. I'm not just angry, I'm devastated. The woman I love, the mother of my children, has betrayed me in the worst way possible. Emily's boss, Richard, is a powerful figure in the city. He's charming, successful, the kind of guy who always knows how to get what he wants. We've had dinner with him and his wife, Laura, several times. I never liked him, always thought he was too smooth, too slick. But I never imagined this. I never imagined Emily would fall for his charm. My chest tightens as I sit there, thinking about what to do next. Everything seems ordinary despite the turmoil inside me. I know I have to confront her, but I can't just let this slide. I need to make her understand the depth of her betrayal. I can't let her walk away from this unscathed. Without thinking too much about it, I forward the photo to the office's general email. It's a split-second decision, but once it's done, there's no going back. I imagine the scene tomorrow morning, the shock, the whispers, the humiliation. I imagine her face when she sees it, when she realizes what I've done. My hands are steady now as I put the phone down. This will change everything. I walk into Emily's office the next morning, my heart pounding in my chest. The air feels thick, heavy with tension. As soon as I step inside, I can feel the shift in the room. Heads turn, whispers ripple through the air like a wave. They've seen the photo. They know. I spot Emily across the open floor, her back to me, talking to Richard. Her laugh rings out, but it's forced, hollow. My stomach churns with disgust as I think of her in his arms, the way she looked in that photo. I can barely breathe, the anger and betrayal nearly choking me. My fists clench at my sides and I force myself to move, one step at a time, toward her. "Emily!" I call out, my voice low but carrying enough weight to cut through the chatter. She turns slowly, her smile fading when she sees me. Her eyes widen, and in that split second, I see the fear, the realization. She knows why I'm here. Her gaze darts to Richard, who's frowning, clearly confused by the sudden change in her demeanor. "Michael, what are you doing here?" Emily's voice trembles, her usual confidence gone. I don't answer her. Instead, I reach into my pocket, pull out my phone, and hold it up for her to see. The screen displays the photo, the one I sent to the entire office. Her eyes lock onto it, and I watch the blood drain from her face. Her hand flies to her mouth, and she stumbles back a step, her eyes flicking around the room as if looking for an escape. "Michael, please," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "Please what?" I hiss, taking a step closer. "Explain this." "Explain why you've been sneaking around behind my back, Why you've been fucking your boss while I've been at home with the kids? Wondering why you've been so distant. Richard steps forward, trying to intervene. Now hold on a minute. Shut the hell up, I snap, cutting him off. You don't get to say a damn thing. You're just as guilty as she is. The office falls silent. Everyone is watching, no one daring to move. Emily's eyes are brimming with tears, but I can't bring myself to care. Not now. Not after what she's done. You sent it? She breathes, her voice trembling. You sent that photo to everyone? Yes, I reply coldly, no emotion in my voice. Everyone. They all know now. They know what kind of woman you really are. She gasps, her knees buckling. I reach out instinctively to catch her, but I stop myself. Let her fall. Let her feel the weight of what she's done. But before she hits the floor, Richard catches her, pulling her into his arms. The sight makes me sick to my core. This man who's torn my life apart is holding her, comforting her, like he's the hero in all of this. The door to the office swings open with a loud bang, and suddenly Laura, Richard's wife, is there. She looks wild, her hair disheveled, her eyes blazing with fury. In her hand, she's holding a gun, and the sight of it sends a jolt of fear through me. This wasn't supposed to happen. I wanted Emily to suffer, yes, but not like this. Laura's voice is low, dangerous. You son of a bitch, she spits at Richard, ignoring the gasps and whispers from the office staff. She raises the gun, aiming it directly at him. How long has this been going on? How long have you been screwing my husband, you whore? She screams at Emily, who's frozen in Richard's arms. Laura, please, put the gun down, Richard says, trying to sound calm. But there's a tremor in his voice that betrays his fear. Don't you dare tell me what to do, Laura shouts, her hand shaking, but her grip on the gun is firm. You ruined our marriage, destroyed our family for this slut. Please don't do this, Emily begs, tears streaming down her face. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake, but don't. Laura doesn't let her finish. With a scream of rage, she pulls the trigger. The gunshot echoes through the office, and time seems to freeze. Richard jerks, his eyes wide in shock as blood blossoms on his chest. He collapses, dragging Emily down with him. Chaos erupts. People scream, ducking under desks, scrambling for cover. I stand there frozen in place, watching the horror unfold. Emily is covered in Richard's blood, her hands pressing against his wound, trying to stop the flow, but it's no use. He's gone. Laura is still holding the gun, her eyes wild as she stares at Emily, her chest heaving with fury. I snap out of my daze and rush forward, grabbing Emily by the arm and pulling her away from Richard's body. Emily, get up! We need to get out of here, I shout, but she's in shock, her eyes glazed over, unable to move. I turn to Laura, who's now pointing the gun at Emily, her finger twitching on the trigger. I have to do something. I can't let this happen. Laura, stop! I shout, holding up my hands. Don't do this! It's over. Richard's dead. You've done enough. Her eyes flick to me, and for a moment I think I've gotten through to her. But then she shakes her head, tears streaming down her face. No, it's not enough, she says, her voice broken. She took everything from me. Everything. And now, I'm going to take it all from her. She raises the gun again, and I know I have seconds to act. Without thinking, I launch myself at her, tackling her to the ground. The gun goes off again, the shot ringing in my ears, but I don't feel any pain. I wrestle the gun from her hand, tossing it across the floor. Laura is sobbing, struggling beneath me, but she's not strong enough to fight me off. I hold her down, panting, trying to catch my breath. The office is in chaos. People are on the phone, calling the police, screaming, crying. I look around for Emily, but she's still on the floor next to Richard's body, her hands covered in blood, staring blankly ahead. She's completely broken, lost in her own world of grief and guilt. I don't know what to do. My mind is racing, my heart pounding in my chest. This isn't how it was supposed to go. I just wanted to expose her, to make her feel the pain she caused me. But now Richard is dead, and Emily, I don't know if she'll ever recover from this. The police arrive, guns drawn, shouting orders. I raise my hand, stepping back from Laura, who's still sobbing on the floor. They handcuff her, pulling her to her feet, and she doesn't resist. She just keeps muttering Richard's name, her eyes vacant. They lead her out, and I'm left standing in the middle of the carnage. Blood on my hands, my ears ringing with the echoes of gunfire. I look down at Emily, who's being gently lifted by a paramedic, her face pale and lifeless. She doesn't even look at me as they carry her away. I don't know what to feel. Relief that it's over? Guilt for starting this whole mess? Fear for what comes next? It's a swirling storm of emotions, and I'm caught in the middle, unable to escape. I'm questioned by the police, but my answers are automatic, robotic. I tell them what happened, how Laura came in with the gun, how she shot Richard, how I managed to disarm her. They ask me about the photo, about why I was at the office in the first place, and I give them the truth. All of it. It feels like a confession, like I'm admitting to my sins. I sent the photo, knowing it would destroy lives. I wanted to hurt Emily, to make her suffer the way I was suffering. But now that it's done, all I feel is hollow. The anger that fueled me is gone, replaced by a cold, empty void. Hours pass before I'm allowed to leave. Emily is in the hospital under observation, but I'm not allowed to see her. Not yet. I don't even know if she wants to see me. I can't get the image of her, covered in Richard's blood, out of my head. I drive home in silence, the weight of what's happened pressing down on me. My phone buzzes with messages, missed calls, but I ignore them all. I can't deal with anyone right now. I just need to think, to process everything. When I finally step into our house, it feels like I'm walking into a stranger's home. The warmth, the comfort, it's all gone. Everything is tainted now, touched by the darkness I unleashed. The kids are with my sister, safe from all of this. And for that, I'm grateful. They don't need to see me like this, to see the mess I've made of our lives. I sit down at the kitchen table, staring at the empty seat where Emily used to sit. I can still see her, smiling at me, laughing before everything went wrong. I wonder if we'll ever have that again. If will I manage to wrestle the gun from Laura, but the damage is done. Richard is dead, a pool of blood spreading across the office floor, and the shock on everyone's faces is palpable. The police arrive, arresting Laura as she rants incoherently about betrayal and loss. I'm questioned on the spot, my words coming out in a haze as I replay the events over and over in my mind. Nothing feels real. Emily refuses to speak to me. She's taken to the hospital, not for any physical injury, but because she's in a state of shock, unresponsive. The news spreads like wildfire. The media is all over it. The affair, the shooting, the scandal. My name is dragged through the mud as the man who exposed it all. I can't escape the cameras, the reporters, the endless questions. Our kids are with my sister, shielded from the worst of it, but I know they're confused, scared. I've ruined everything. I try to visit Emily in the hospital, but she won't see me. The doctors tell me she needs time, that she's deeply traumatized. I feel like a ghost, haunting the halls of our empty home, unable to shake the guilt gnawing at my insides. I did this. I set this chain of events in motion, and now I have to live with the consequences. Days pass in a blur. The scandal dominates the news cycle, and I become public enemy number one. The media paints me as a jealous, vengeful husband, the man who destroyed lives out of spite. I can't even go outside without being hounded by reporters. Every aspect of my life is scrutinized, twisted, and I have no way to fight back. I'm alone, isolated from everyone I care about, and there's no end in sight. One night, after tossing and turning in bed for hours, I decide to look into Richard's past. There has to be more to this story, something that explains why things spiraled so out of control. I start digging, using every resource I have. What I find is darker than I could have imagined. Richard wasn't just Emily's boss. He was involved in some serious illegal activities: money laundering, fraud, connections to organized crime. The deeper I go, the more I uncover, and it becomes clear that Richard wasn't the charming businessman he appeared to be. He was dangerous, and now, because of me, the people he was connected to are starting to take notice. It doesn't take long for the threats to start. At first it's subtle, an anonymous email warning me to back off, to stop digging if I know what's good for me. But I don't stop. I can't. I need to understand the full extent of what I've gotten myself into. I need to know if there's any way to fix this mess. Then one night, I come home to find a note slipped under my door. It's simple, just a few words, but it sends a chill down my spine. Keep your mouth shut, or your family pays the price. My blood runs cold. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about Emily, our kids. I've put them in danger, and I have no idea how to protect them. I'm way out of my depth, and every instinct is screaming at me to run, to get my family as far away from this as possible. But I can't leave. Not yet. I need to figure out who's behind these threats and what they want. I try to reach out to Emily, but she still won't talk to me. My sister brings the kids home, and I do my best to act normal, to pretend like everything is fine. But it's not. I'm constantly on edge, waiting for the next threat, the next move. I barely sleep, every sound in the house putting me on high alert. I know they're watching me, and the fear is starting to consume me. One evening after putting the kids to bed, I sit down with a drink, trying to steady my nerves. My phone buzzes on the table, and I almost don't want to look at it, afraid of what I'll find. But I force myself to pick it up. It's a text message, no sender, just a number I don't recognize. "Time's running out, Michael. Walk away, or it won't just be you who suffers." I feel sick. This is real. They're not bluffing. I have to do something. But what? Going to the police is out of the question. I'm not even sure who I can trust anymore. For all I know, they have people inside the department. I'm completely alone with no one to turn to. Desperate, I start looking into Richard's known associates, trying to find any connection, any weakness I can exploit. I tracked down one of his former business partners, a man named James who dropped off the radar a few years ago. Through some shady contacts, I managed to get a meeting with him, hoping he can give me something, anything, to use as leverage. The meeting takes place in a dingy bar on the outskirts of the city, far from prying eyes. James is rough around the edges, with a wary look in his eyes as he sizes me up. I lay everything out for him, the threats, the danger to my family, everything I've uncovered about Richard. He listens in silence, occasionally taking a sip from his drink, his expression unreadable. When I finish, there's a long pause before he speaks. "You're in deep shit, Michael. These aren't the kind of people you mess with. Richard was into some heavy stuff, and if they think you know something, they won't stop until you're silenced." "I don't know what to do," I admit, my voice cracking. "They've threatened my family. I just want to protect them." James leans back in his chair, considering me for a moment. "There's only one way out of this. You need to find something they want, something valuable enough that they'll back off. If you can do that, maybe you can negotiate your way out. But it's a long shot." "What could they possibly want?" I ask, desperation creeping into my voice. "Information," he replies. "Richard kept records, logs of his dealings. If you can find them, you might have a bargaining chip. But those logs are well hidden. You're going to need help." I don't have many options, so I agree to his terms. James offers to set up a meeting with someone who might know where Richard kept his records. It's risky, but I have no choice. I can't just sit around and wait for these people to come after my family. A few days later, I'm sitting in another dark, dingy room, this time with a man named Victor, a former associate of Richard's who supposedly knows where the records are hidden. He's older, with sharp, calculating eyes that seem to see right through me. I explain my situation, trying to sound more confident than I feel. Victor listens, nodding occasionally, but he doesn't give much away. When I'm finished, he leans forward, steepling his fingers. "You're a dead man walking, Michael. Richard's enemies don't play games, and they're not going to just let you off the hook, but you might have a chance if you can get those records." "Where are they?" I ask, my heart pounding in my chest. "They're not easy to get to. Victor says slowly. Richard had a safe house, a place he used for meetings and storage. That's where he kept the important stuff. But it's not going to be easy to get in there. It's heavily guarded, and if they catch you snooping around, you're as good as dead. I don't care, I say, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. I'll do whatever it takes. Victor nods, seemingly impressed by my determination. All right, I'll help you, but you need to understand something. Once you're in, there's no turning back. You get those records and you make your move. If you hesitate, even for a second, they'll kill you. I agree, and we start planning. Victor gives me the layout of the safe house, details on the security, and advice on how to avoid detection. It's a daunting task, but I'm running out of options. I have to do this for Emily, for the kids, for myself. The night of the break-in, my nerves are shot. I'm shaking as I approach the safe house, a nondescript building in a quiet neighborhood. It looks ordinary from the outside, but I know what's inside could mean life or death for me and my family. I follow Victor's instructions, slipping through a side entrance and making my way to the basement, where the records are supposedly kept. The place is eerily silent, and every creak of the floorboards sets my heart racing. I can't afford to make any mistakes. When I reach the basement, I find the safe, an old, heavy thing that looks impossible to crack. But Victor provided me with the combination, and after what feels like an eternity, I managed to open it. Inside, I find files, documents, hard drives, everything Richard's enemies would want to get their hands on. My hands are trembling as I load everything into a bag, my mind racing with what I've just found. This is it. This is my ticket out. But as I turn to leave, I hear footsteps above me. Someone's here. Panic grips me, but I force myself to stay calm. I can't get caught now, not when I'm so close. I wait, holding my breath, listening as the footsteps move through the house. They're searching for something, or someone. I know I have to move, but the fear is paralyzing. If they find me, it's over. Eventually, the footsteps fade, and I make my move. I slip out the way I came in, my heart pounding in my ears. I don't stop running until I'm back in my car, the bag of records on the seat beside me. I've done it. I've got what I need to negotiate, to protect my family. But as I sit there trying to catch my breath, I realize that this is just the beginning. I have the records, but now I have to use them. I have to face whoever's behind this and make them back off, or everything I've done will be for nothing. And I know deep down that the most dangerous part of this ordeal is still ahead of me. I'm forced to go on the run with my children. The decision isn't easy, but it's the only way I can keep them safe. Emily, as much as I want to protect her too, insists on staying behind. She's determined to face the consequences, to fix things with the law, but I know that staying is a death sentence. We argue, our voices hushed so the kids don't hear, but she's stubborn, unyielding. I can't leave, Michael, she says, her eyes pleading with me to understand. This is my mess too. I need to face it. Emily, they will kill you, I whisper, desperation thick in my voice. You don't know these people like I do now. They won't stop. She shakes her head, her resolve firm. I won't run. I can't. But you can keep the kids safe. Take them. Get out of here. I want to argue more, but there's no time. The threats are getting closer, more direct. We're being watched, I'm sure of it. The night before I decide to leave, I catch a glimpse of a car parked across the street, the glint of binoculars in the darkness. I know they're closing in. So, I do the only thing I can. I pack up the essentials, grab the kids, and we disappear into the night. The drive is long, tense. The kids are confused, asking questions I can't answer. I try to keep it light, tell them it's an adventure, but they're not stupid. They sense my fear, my urgency. We reach a small, remote cabin in the woods, a place I used to go as a kid with my parents. It's off the grid, no cell service, no internet. The isolation is suffocating, but it's the only place I can think of where we might be safe, at least for a while. I tell the kids it's a vacation, that we're going to have some fun away from everything. They nod, but their eyes are wide, scared. I try to reassure them, but I'm not even convincing myself. Days blur together. I barely sleep, my mind racing with thoughts of what's happening back home, of Emily, of the people who are hunting us. Every sound outside the cabin sets my heart racing. I've never felt so helpless, so out of my depth. The kids are restless, and I do my best to keep them occupied. But it's hard when all I can think about is whether we'll survive this. One night, after the kids are asleep, I sit at the small kitchen table, the weight of everything crashing down on me. I can't keep running forever. Sooner or later, they'll find us. I need to take control of the situation to end this. I need to find out who's behind these threats and take them down before they get to me. But where do I start? I've already uncovered so much, but it feels like I'm just scratching the surface. Richard's connections run deep, and the people he was involved with are powerful, ruthless. I know I can't do this alone. I need help, but I don't know who I can trust. Then it hits me. I need to dig deeper into Richard's past to find out who he was really working for. There has to be someone at the top, someone pulling the strings. If I can find them, maybe I can negotiate. Maybe I can make them back off. But that means going back into the lion's den, risking everything. I make the decision to leave the kids with my sister. It's not ideal, but it's the only way I can move freely without worrying about their safety. I drive back to the city, my heart heavy with fear and guilt. I hate leaving them, but I know it's the right thing to do. They'll be safe with her, at least for now. Once I'm back, I start tracking down everyone who was close to Richard. I need to find a lead, something that will point me in the right direction. I start with Victor, the man who helped me before. I find him in a seedy bar, nursing a drink, looking as if the weight of the world is on his shoulders. "Michael?" He greets me with a nod as I slide into the booth across from him. "I wondered when you'd show up again." "I need your help," I say, cutting straight to the point. "I'm in deeper than I thought, and I need to find out who's at the top." Victor chuckles, a low, humorless sound. "You're playing with fire, my friend, but I admire your tenacity. All right, I'll help you. One last time." He gives me a name, Edward Barlow, a man I've never heard of, but according to Victor, he's the one who holds the strings, the puppet master behind Richard and all his dealings. Edward is powerful, connected to politicians, law enforcement, organized crime. Taking him down won't be easy, but it's my only shot. I start digging into Edward's life, trying to find a weakness, something I can use against him. The more I uncover, the more dangerous he seems. This man is untouchable, his hands in everything, and getting close to him feels like a death wish. But I have no choice. I need to end this. I track him to a private club in the heart of the city, a place where deals are made in shadows, where power brokers gather to discuss their empires. I know it's a risk, but I need to get close to him, to see him, to understand who I'm dealing with. I manage to slip inside, blending in with the crowd of wealthy, influential men. The place is dark, filled with cigar smoke and the low hum of conversations. I spot Edward easily. He's surrounded by a group of men, laughing, holding court like a king. My stomach twists with anxiety, but I force myself to move closer, to listen. I don't hear much, just snippets of conversation. Business deals, political favors, the usual. But it's enough to confirm what I already knew. Edward is the man in charge, the one who can decide whether I live or die. I follow him when he leaves, trailing him through the darkened streets. I don't have a plan, just a desperate need to confront him, to make him understand that I'm not going down without a fight. But as I turn a corner, I'm grabbed from behind, a hand clamping over my mouth, dragging me into a nearby alley. I struggle, but whoever has me is strong, pinning me against the wall, a gun pressed to my side. My heart races, fear flooding my veins. This is it. They found me. "Stop fighting, Michael," a voice hisses in my ear. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I freeze, recognizing the voice. It's one of Edward's men, someone I've seen with him before. He pulls me deeper into the alley, away from prying eyes, before shoving me to the ground. "Edward wants to see you," he says, his voice cold. "But you've made a lot of enemies, and they're not as forgiving as he is." I'm hauled to my feet and forced into a car, my mind racing. This wasn't how I planned it. I'm brought to an imposing mansion on the outskirts of the city, where Edward is waiting for me, sitting in a plush armchair, a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Michael," he says calmly, as if we're old friends, "you've been causing quite a stir." I'm pushed into a chair opposite him, my mind whirling with fear and adrenaline. I can barely think straight, but I know I have to say something, do something, to get out of this alive. "I'm just trying to protect my family," I say, my voice steady despite the terror coursing through me. "I don't want any trouble." Edward raises an eyebrow, amused. "You've already caused plenty of trouble, but I admire your determination. Unfortunately for you, I can't have you digging around in my business. It's bad for my reputation." He leans forward, his eyes cold and calculating. "But you're in luck. I'm willing to make a deal." "A deal?" I ask, hope flaring in my chest. "Yes," he says, nodding. "You give me what you found, everything, and in return I'll let you and your family walk away. But if you try to use it against me, or if you ever breathe a word of this to anyone, I will personally ensure that you and everyone you love disappear. It's a devil's bargain, but I have no choice." I nod, agreeing to his terms. He smiles satisfied and gestures for his men to release me. "I'll be in touch," he says, his tone dismissive. "Don't make me regret this." I'm shoved out of the mansion, my heart pounding in my chest. I should feel relieved, but all I feel is dread. I've made a deal with the devil, and there's no way out. I head back to my sister's place where the kids are waiting. They're asleep when I arrive, and I stand over their beds, guilt and fear gnawing at me. I've done what I had to do, but I know this isn't over. Edward's a dangerous man, and I don't trust him to keep his word. The next few days are tense. Every knock on the door, every phone call sending me into a panic. I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, expecting Edward's men to show up at any moment. I can't live like this, always in fear, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then I get the call. It's from Edward's right-hand man, instructing me to meet at a remote location to hand over the information I've gathered. It feels like a trap, but I have no choice. I head to the meeting place, a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of the city, my heart pounding with every step. I walk into the warehouse, the sound of my footsteps echoing off the walls. Edward's men are there, waiting. I hand over the bag with the documents, my hands shaking. They check everything, then nod, satisfied. "You've done the right thing," one of them says, his tone almost friendly. "Now get out of here. And remember, you say anything, and we'll find you." I turn to leave, but as I do, I hear a sound, a scuffle, a shout. I turn back, and my blood runs cold. They've got Emily, dragging her into the warehouse, her face bruised, her eyes wide with fear. "No!" I shout, running towards her, but they hold me back, forcing me to watch as they push her to her knees. "This is insurance," one of them says coldly. "You stay quiet, and she goes free. But if you ever cross us, she's dead." I'm helpless, forced to watch as they take her away, leaving me alone in the warehouse, my heart shattered. I've lost everything. I make a deal with the authorities. It's my only chance to save Emily and put an end to the nightmare we've been living through. The thought of her in their hands, used as leverage against me, is unbearable. I can't let this go on any longer. I meet with a federal agent named Collins in a nondescript office building downtown. The place is bland, sterile, a far cry from the chaos that's been my life lately. Collins is a seasoned agent, calm and collected, but there's a hardness in his eyes that tells me he's seen too much. He listens as I lay it all out, the conspiracy, the threats, the fact that they have Emily. His expression remains unreadable, but I can see he's processing every word. "You understand what you're asking for," Collins says, leaning back in his chair. "Protection for you and your family in exchange for information? This is a serious deal, Michael." "I understand," I reply, my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at my insides. "But I need your word that Emily and the kids will be safe. I won't hand over anything until I have that guarantee." Collins nods slowly. We can arrange witness protection, new identities, relocation, but you need to deliver on your end first. I hesitate, knowing the risks. Once I hand over the evidence, there's no going back, but I'm out of options. I reach into my bag and pull out the flash drive containing everything I've gathered. It feels heavy in my hand, like the weight of the world. This has everything, I say, sliding it across the table. All the files, the contacts, the deals Richard was involved in. It's enough to take them down. Collins takes the drive, turning it over in his hand. You better hope this is worth it, Michael. We'll need time to verify the information, set things in motion. Until then, you and your family stay hidden. We'll arrange for Emily's release, but it'll take some time. Time? I snap, frustration boiling over. She doesn't have time. They could kill her any minute. Collins remains calm, unflinching. We'll get her out, but we have to do this by the book. If we rush it, they'll know something's up, and that puts everyone in more danger. I want to argue, to scream at him to hurry, but I know he's right. I've come too far to screw this up now. I nod, forcing myself to stay composed. Just make it quick. Collins stands, signaling the end of the meeting. You'll hear from us soon. Stay close to your phone. I leave the building with a mix of hope and dread churning in my gut. It's out of my hands now. All I can do is wait and pray they come through before it's too late. The waiting is unbearable. I return to the cabin where the kids are staying with my sister and try to maintain a facade of normalcy. But the tension is palpable, a heavy cloud hanging over us. The kids sense it, their questions growing more pointed, more desperate. I do my best to reassure them, to keep them distracted, but every second that ticks by feels like a countdown to disaster. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, my phone rings. It's Collins. He doesn't waste time with pleasantries. We've got her, he says, his voice clipped. Emily's safe. We're moving her to a secure location. You and the kids need to be ready to leave immediately. Relief floods through me, so intense it almost brings me to my knees. Thank you, I manage to say, my voice thick with emotion. Thank you. We're not out of the woods yet, Collins warns. They're going to realize she's gone soon, and when they do, they'll come after you. We need to move fast. I don't need to be told twice. I gather the kids and tell my sister what's happening. She tries to hide her fear, but I see it in her eyes. I promise her we'll be okay, that we'll be safe, but the words feel hollow. I'm not even sure I believe them myself. We leave the cabin under the cover of night, escorted by federal agents. The kids are scared, clinging to me as we drive through the dark, empty roads. I do my best to keep them calm, to reassure them that everything will be okay. But the truth is, I'm terrified. We're being hunted, and I have no idea if we'll make it out of this alive. We reach the safe house just before dawn, a small, isolated property surrounded by trees. It's quiet, almost peaceful, but I know better than to let my guard down. The agents lead us inside where Emily is waiting. The moment I see her, I feel like I can finally breathe again. She's bruised, her face pale, but she's alive. I pull her into my arms, holding her tight, as if I can shield her from the world. The kids rush to her, clinging to her legs, their tears mingling with relief and fear. For a moment, we're just a family again, reunited after the nightmare we've been through. But the moment doesn't last. Collins pulls me aside, his expression grim. We need to talk about what happens next, he says, his tone leaving no room for argument. We sit down in a small room off to the side, away from the kids. Emily is there too, her hand clutching mine like a lifeline. Collins lays it out in stark terms. Witness protection, new identities, a complete severance from our old lives. It's the only way to ensure our safety. What about the people who took me? Emily asks, her voice trembling. What happens to them? We're closing in on them, Collins replies. But it's going to take time. You need to be somewhere they can't reach you. Emily looks at me, fear and uncertainty in her eyes. Can we really do this? Leave everything behind? I squeeze her hand, trying to convey a confidence I don't feel. It's the only way, Emily. We have to protect the kids. We'll start over, together. She nods, tears welling up in her eyes. Okay, let's do it. The next few days are a blur of preparations. New identities are created, documents forged, and plans laid out in meticulous detail. The agents are efficient, coldly professional, but I can sense the urgency beneath their calm exterior. They know how high the stakes are. The hardest part is saying goodbye to my sister. She's been my rock through all of this, but now I have to leave her behind. We stand outside the safe house, the kids inside with Emily, as I struggle to find the words. I'm sorry, I finally say, my voice breaking, for dragging you into this, for everything. She shakes her head, tears in her eyes. Don't apologize, Michael. Just be safe. Take care of them. That's all that matters. I pull her into a tight hug, the weight of our separation crushing me. I will. I promise. We don't say anything else. There's nothing left to say. I watch as she gets into her car and drives away, taking a piece of my heart with her. I stand there for a long time, staring at the empty road, until Collins comes to get me. It's time, he says simply. We leave in a convoy of unmarked cars, heading to an undisclosed location where we'll start our new lives. The drive is long, silent, the tension in the air thick enough to cut. The kids are quiet in the back seat, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. Emily holds my hand, her grip tight, as if she's afraid to let go. When we finally arrive, it's to a small, unassuming town far from the city. The house is modest, a stark contrast to the life we once had, but it's safe. The agents help us settle in, going over the details of our new identities, the rules we have to follow to stay off the radar. It's overwhelming, the reality of what we're about to do sinking in. We're leaving everything behind, our home, our friends, our lives. But there's no other choice. We have to protect our family no matter the cost. As the days turn into weeks, we start to adjust to our new lives. The kids begin school under their new names, slowly adapting to the change. Emily and I try to create some semblance of normalcy, but it's hard. The weight of what we've lost hangs over us like a dark cloud. Our relationship is strained, the events of the past months taking their toll. We're both haunted by the trauma, by the choices we've had to make. There are moments of closeness, where we cling to each other for comfort, but they're fleeting. The scars run deep, and I'm not sure if we'll ever fully heal. One night, after the kids are asleep, Emily and I sit in the living room, the silence between us heavy. She finally speaks, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you think we'll ever be okay again? I look at her, the pain in her eyes mirroring my own. I don't know, I admit, my voice thick with emotion. But we'll try. For the kids, we have to try. She nods, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'm scared, Michael. Scared that this will never end, that we'll always be looking over our shoulders. I reach out, pulling her into my arms. We're safe here, Emily. They won't find us. We'll make this work somehow. We cling to each other in the darkness, trying to find solace in the fact that we're still together, still alive. But the fear lingers, a constant shadow over our new lives. The weeks turn into months, and slowly the tension begins to ease. The kids start to settle into their new routines, making friends, finding their place in this small, quiet town. Emily and I do our best to move forward, to create a new life out of the ashes of the old one. But the scars remain. We're different now, shaped by the horrors we've endured. Our relationship, once so strong, is fractured, and despite our best efforts, the distance between us grows. One evening, as we sit on the porch watching the sunset, Emily speaks the words I've been dreading. I think we need to separate, Michael. The air leaves my lungs like I've been punched. I stare at her, the finality of her words sinking in. Why? She looks at me, tears in her eyes. Because we're not the same people we were. I don't know if we can ever go back to what we had. I love you, but this isn't working. I want to argue, to tell her we can fix it, that we've been through too much to give up now. But deep down, I know she's right. The trauma, the fear, the guilt, it's changed us both. and I don't know if we can find our way back to each other. I don't want to lose you, I say, my voice breaking. You won't, she replies, her voice soft but firm. We'll always be connected, through the kids, through what we've been through. But we need space, time to heal. I nod, tears blurring my vision. Okay. We sit in silence as the sun dips below the horizon, the weight of our decisions settling over us. We'll move forward, separately, but always tied to each other by the memories, by the pain. In the weeks that follow, we start the process of separation. It's painful, but necessary. We're doing what's best for the kids, for ourselves. We'll co-parent, support each other, but as friends, not as the couple we once were. As I pack up my things, preparing to move into a small apartment on the other side of town, I reflect on everything that's happened. The choices I've made, the lives that have been lost, the family that's been fractured. The nightmare is over, but the scars remain. I close the door to our house, the place we tried to make a home, and take one last look back. The future is uncertain, but there's a glimmer of hope, a chance to start over, to rebuild. As I walk away, I tell myself that one day maybe we'll find peace. Just as I start to piece things together, I receive one final threat. It's late at night when the phone rings. The house is quiet, the kids asleep in their rooms. I pick up the phone, my heart already racing before I even hear the voice on the other end. You thought this was over? The voice is cold, menacing, and instantly familiar. It's someone from Richard's network, someone I thought I'd outmaneuvered. We're not done with you yet, Michael. I feel a chill run down my spine. I've been waiting for this moment, dreading it. What do you want? I manage to ask, keeping my voice steady, though my hand trembles as I grip the phone. There's no hiding this time, the voice continues. We know where you are. We know where your kids are. You're going to pay for what you've done. My mind races trying to think of a way out, a way to protect my family. But there's no time. They've found us, and they're not going to stop until they've destroyed everything. The line goes dead, and I'm left standing there, the silence in the house suddenly suffocating. I rush to the bedroom where Emily is already awake, sensing something is wrong. We need to go, I say urgently, grabbing the bag I've kept packed for emergencies. They've found us. Her eyes widen in fear, but she doesn't hesitate. We wake the kids, telling them it's time for another move. They're used to this by now, but I can see the fear in their eyes too. We move quickly, leaving the house behind without looking back. We drive through the night, the tension thick in the car. Emily tries to comfort the kids, but there's a heaviness in her voice that tells me she's just as scared as I am. I keep checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see headlights following us, but there's nothing. The road stretches out ahead of us, dark and empty. We reach a small motel on the outskirts of a town I don't even know the name of. It's run down, barely more than a shelter, but it's a place to rest, to figure out our next move. The kids fall asleep quickly, exhausted from the stress and the constant upheaval. Emily and I sit in the dimly lit room, the silence between us heavy with unspoken fears. We can't keep running, she says finally, her voice barely a whisper. I know, I reply, my mind racing with possibilities. But I don't know what else to do. We have to end this, Michael, once and for all. Her words hang in the air, a challenge I can't ignore. I know she's right. We can't live like this, constantly looking over our shoulders, waiting for the next attack. But ending it means facing them, and that terrifies me more than anything. I nod, more to myself than to her. I'll finish it, I say, determination hardening in my chest. This ends tonight. I leave the motel, telling Emily to stay with the kids, to keep them safe. She watches me go, her eyes filled with worry, but she doesn't try to stop me. She knows there's no other way. I drive back to the city, my mind focused on one thing, confronting the man who has been behind this from the start, Edward Barlow. The name still sends a shiver down my spine, but I know what I have to do. I've prepared for this, gathering everything I could use against him. Now it's time to put it to the test. I pull up to his mansion, the same place I was taken to when this nightmare first began. The house looms dark and imposing against the night sky. I park the car down the street and make my way to the entrance, my heart pounding in my chest. There's no point in sneaking around. I'm past the point of subtlety. I bang on the door, the sound echoing in the stillness of the night. After a moment, it opens, and one of his men stands there, surprised to see me, but quickly recovering. "I need to see Barlow," I say, my voice cold and steady. He hesitates, but then steps aside, letting me in. I walk through the darkened halls, my footsteps echoing on the marble floors. The house is quiet, almost eerily so, but I can feel the tension in the air. Barlow is waiting for me in the study, sitting in a high-backed leather chair, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looks up as I enter, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Michael," he says, his tone dripping with mockery, "I didn't expect to see you here." "This ends tonight," I say, cutting straight to the point. "You're going to leave me and my family alone, or I'll bring you down." His smile widens, and he takes a sip of his whiskey. "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" "I've got everything," I say, pulling out a flash drive from my pocket. "All your dirty deals, your connections, your crimes. I hand this over to the authorities, and you're finished." He chuckles, a low, menacing sound. "Do you really think it's that simple? I could have you killed right now, and no one would ever find your body." "You could," I agree, my heart pounding in my chest. "But then this drive gets sent to every major news outlet, every law enforcement agency in the country. You'd be hunted down like the dog you are." His smile fades, his eyes narrowing. I've struck a nerve, and I know I'm playing a dangerous game, but I have no choice. "What do you want?" he asks, his voice colder now, all pretense of friendliness gone. "I want you to leave us alone," I say, my voice firm. "Erase our debt, stop the threats, and let us disappear. You do that, and this drive stays hidden. You come after us again, and I'll destroy you." He stares at me for a long moment, weighing his options. I can see the calculation in his eyes, the way he's assessing the risk. Finally, he nods slowly. "Fine," he says, his voice tight. "But know this, Michael, you cross me again, and I will end you. No matter where you hide, no matter how far you run, I will find you." I nod, knowing the threat is real but having no other choice. "It's a deal." I turn and leave the mansion, my heart pounding in my chest, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I've done it. I've faced the devil and walked away, but I know the cost. There's no going back from this. I drive back to the motel, my mind racing with everything that's happened. Emily is waiting for me when I arrive, her eyes filled with relief and fear. "Is it over?" she asks, her voice trembling. I nod, pulling her into my arms. "It's over," I say, more to reassure her than myself. "We're safe now." We leave the motel the next morning, heading to our new home, the one we've been preparing for all along. It's a small house in a quiet town, far from the chaos we've left behind. The kids seem happier, more relaxed, and for the first time in a long while, I start to feel like maybe, just maybe, we can have a normal life again. But the cost is high. Emily and I are more distant than ever, the strain of everything we've been through taking its toll. We try to make it work for the kids, but there's a rift between us that we can't seem to bridge. We file for divorce a few months later. It's amicable, as much as something like this can be. We agree to share custody of the kids, to remain in each other's lives, but as friends, not as the couple we once were. The final showdown with Barlow has left me broken, in more ways than one. The person I was before all this started is gone, replaced by someone harder, more jaded. I look at the life I have now and wonder if it was worth it, if the choices I made were the right ones. But the nightmare's over, the danger's behind us, and for that, I'm grateful. I stand alone in my new apartment, reflecting on everything that's happened, the choices I made, the consequences I now face. The scars run deep, but they're a part of me now, a reminder of the price I paid to protect my family. The life I once knew is gone, but I'm still here. I'm still standing. And as I look out the window at the quiet street below, I tell myself that maybe, just maybe, there's hope for the future. In the aftermath, I focus on my children, trying to rebuild a life for them. The chaos that had engulfed our world has finally settled, but the scars remain. Each morning, I wake up with a sense of cautious relief, knowing that the immediate danger has passed, yet feeling the weight of what we've been through. The kids are resilient, more so than I'd expected. They've adapted to our new life, making friends, settling into routines. But I can see the changes in them, small, subtle shifts in their behavior that speak to the trauma they've endured. They're more cautious, more aware of the world's darker edges, and that breaks my heart. I do my best to shield them from it, to give them some semblance of normalcy, but I know they're changed just like I am. Emily and I have kept things civil for the sake of the kids. We're co-parenting, managing to navigate the complexities of our new relationship with surprising ease. We still share occasional moments of connection, usually when we're reminiscing about better times with the kids or trying to figure out how to handle a parenting challenge. But those moments are fleeting, quickly replaced by the reality of our fractured relationship. We've both moved on in our own ways, but the pain lingers, a dull ache that never fully goes away. As the media attention fades, so does the constant reminder of the nightmare we lived through. The scandal that once gripped the city has been replaced by newer headlines, and we've slipped back into relative obscurity. But even as the world moves on, I find it hard to let go of the memories. The images of what happened, the blood, the threats, the fear, play on a loop in my mind, especially late at night when the house is quiet and I'm alone with my thoughts. One of the few things that brings me solace is the time I spend with the kids. We've developed new routines, new traditions in this new life we're building. I take them to the park on weekends, watch movies with them on Friday nights, and help with their homework during the week. These small victories, these moments of peace, are what keep me going. They remind me that despite everything, we've survived. We're still a family, even if it's not the family I once imagined. But I can't ignore the pull of the future, the need to move forward. As the months pass, I start to think about what comes next. We're safe now, but I know this can't be where our story ends. There's more out there for us, and I can't let the past define the rest of our lives. I begin to consider a move, a fresh start in a new city, where we can leave the memories behind and build something new. It's a daunting thought, uprooting the kids again, but I know it's what we need. We can't stay here, living in the shadow of what happened. We need a place where we can truly heal, where I can find happiness again, and where the kids can grow up without the weight of our past hanging over them. I start researching cities, looking for a place that feels right, somewhere with good schools, a sense of community, and opportunities for the kids to thrive. I want a place where we can blend in, where we can be just another family, not the family that survived a nightmare. It takes time, but eventually I find a place that feels like it could be home. The decision to move isn't easy. I sit down with Emily to discuss it, knowing that whatever I decide will impact her too. We've reached a point where we can have these conversations without the bitterness that once tainted every word. She listens as I explain my reasoning, nodding in understanding. "It makes sense," she says finally, her voice soft. "The kids deserve a fresh start." "So do you." "And you?" I ask, wanting to make sure she's okay with the decision. She hesitates, then gives me a small smile. "I'll be fine, Michael. We'll make it work. We always do." Her words are a comfort, a reminder that despite everything, we're still on the same team when it comes to the kids. We may not be together anymore, but we're still united in our love for them, and that's what matters most. As the move draws closer, I start packing up our lives, sorting through the remnants of the past. There's a sense of finality in it, a realization that we're closing one chapter and beginning another. The kids are excited about the move, eager for the adventure of a new place, new friends. Their enthusiasm is infectious, helping to ease the pang of nostalgia that comes with leaving. On the last day in our old house, I take a moment to walk through the empty rooms, letting the memories wash over me. This place has been our home through the best and worst of times, and it's hard to say goodbye. I linger in the kids' rooms, remembering the laughter, the late-night talks, the way they used to crawl into bed with me after a bad dream. I stand in the living room, picturing the family we used to be, before everything fell apart. And finally, I stop in the doorway of the bedroom Emily and I once shared, feeling the weight of all that's been lost. But I know this move is the right choice. It's time to let go of the past, to stop living in the shadows of what happened. I take one last look around, then close the door behind me, feeling a strange mix of sadness and hope. We arrive in our new city with a sense of cautious optimism. The kids are nervous but excited, and I do my best to ease their fears, reminding them that this is a chance for a new beginning. We settle into our new home, a modest but comfortable house on a quiet street. The neighborhood is welcoming, the kind of place where people know each other's names and kids ride their bikes down the block. As the days turn into weeks, we start to find our rhythm. The kids make friends at school, and I find a job that keeps me busy but allows me to be there for them when they need me. Emily and I keep in touch, coordinating visits and making sure the kids know they're still loved and supported by both of us, even if we're no longer together. There are moments when the past catches up with me, when the memories resurface and the pain feels fresh again, but they're becoming less frequent, less intense. I'm learning to live with the scars, to accept that they're a part of me now. They don't define me, but they've shaped who I am, who I've become. And slowly, as the months go by, I start to feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Hope. It's fragile, tentative, but it's there. I start to believe that maybe, just maybe, we can be happy here, that I can be happy here. The kids are thriving, and that's all the reassurance I need. They laugh more, sleep better, and the shadows that once haunted their eyes are beginning to fade. We're building something new, something good, and it's enough. It has to be. One evening, as I sit on the porch watching the sunset, I realize that I'm ready to face whatever comes next. The past will always be a part of me, but it doesn't have to define my future. I've survived the worst, and now it's time to start living again. The story concludes as I finish packing up the last of our belongings from the old life, ready to leave it behind. I close the door of the house we've left, taking one final look back before turning toward the future. There's a sense of peace in that moment, a feeling that we're finally free from the past. As I drive away, the kids chattering excitedly in the back seat, I let myself smile. We're heading toward a new beginning, a fresh start, and for the first time in a long while, I feel like we're going to be okay.